Welcome to the Ashes into Beauty podcast with your host, Stephanie Marie Laswell, divorce concierge at The Divorce Life. Hello, listeners. Thank you for tuning in today. I am excited to bring my friend Grant Johnson along. He's going to talk about something very, very exciting.
Hey, it's insurance.
It might not be exciting, but when we are thinking about going through divorce, it is important that we talk about some of these red flags, how to prepare, when to think about switching and getting our own policy, all that good stuff. And Grant is an expert on insurance. So we're going to dive in and talk about this wonderful thing called insurance.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So let's just start off. What somebody comes to you, it's after the holidays. It's a National Divorce Month, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there either learning they're about to go through a divorce or thinking about it or just starting the process. So when it comes to insurance, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, good question. Lots of things that can be affected in insurance by divorce. The first one we'll talk quite a bit about is credit. Insurance is predicated on a lot of factors on the particular people that they insure, the location, the home, the vehicle. But within that is your credit score. And there's a specific credit, like a insurance credit as well, that's kind of wrapped up in that too. So your credit score is going to be a big factor on what your rates are. And it can even go as far to look at if you're eligible for policies or not. I like to have positives and negatives. So when I say negative, I like to have a positive. But the good thing is they can actually be a positive thing too. That if you are getting a divorce and leaving someone who might have bad credit or less credit than you, then it can actually be beneficial for you to do. So, always look into your credit score, take a look at where you are individually and see, what that looks like, because that can make a big difference on a rate for home insurance, auto insurance, and the like. So
yeah, a great place to go for that credit report is freecreditreport.com. You don't have to pay for it. You don't need to pay for it, friends. Go get it for free. You could get it once a year for free, but also it might be a good idea to freeze your credit. That way, in these situations, not everybody is lovey-dovey through divorce, and sometimes we've got people that want to do not nice things. So freeze your credit while you're also checking it out and seeing what your score is. Because I'm fascinated with this topic, and I don't know, I'm a nerd. I love this report. Tell us about the Clue report.
Yeah. So, mostly auto insurance companies across the board utilize it. Some actually home companies do that too when you're looking to get a quote. But they look at, different, pieces of information about you and your history. They're going to be looking at, how long you've had, insurance, how long you've been a titled insurer versus a driver. They're looking at a lot of things that go back to your insurance history, that it goes to that history report. There's kind of a thing called, I call it like the National Insurance Database, because it's really like a reporting system on you as a client. So much like you have like a health report, that a lot of doctors' offices, hospitals can all pull information from you. It's the same thing. They have you as that information shared among insurance companies to look at who you are and kind of how big of a risk or little risk you are in different types of insurance.
So let me ask you a question and give you kind of a scenario. Say somebody owns a home together, they're married, they're on the lien together, they're on the mortgage together. Does that mean that they're also carrying the insurance together?
It could. It depends on a couple factors. So, you said that the ownership is key, right? So you have to own something to be able to be insured. But as long as they are both listed as insureds, some companies are different. Some look at first insured only, so whoever's listed as first. Some look at both first and second. But as long as they're listed as insured, then that's typically ownership, and they're on those reports. You might look out for things of if you're not listed as an owner, if you're just a driver, or maybe not even listed at all. Sometimes that happens on home policies and things where only one spouse is listed as an insured or owner. So those are things to look into, especially as you're looking possibly getting divorced or separating, those types of things, getting your own policies. It's really important to look at if you are an insured. And if you're not, then you should become one if you have ownership, title, registration in the home or vehicles, because that's the way that you build that insurance credit. If you're not on there, most insurance companies want 6 to 12 months of previous coverage. And the only way that you pop up on there is if you are listed as a first or second insured. So, the same thing goes for like young drivers. You've been a young driver for 16, 17, 18 years old, but you're listed as a driver, not on a policy. And then when you turn 18, you might want to get your own policy, but you have no insurance history. So same thing can go for anybody at any age who might not be actually listed as an insured on the policies.
I just learned that today, just like right now. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had to build up your insurance history just like you do your credit score. So that's interesting.
The crazy thing is that a lot of insurance companies they'll reject you or different types of people or different types of insurance if they haven't had 6 to 12 months previous insurance. So, not to scare people, but that's something that happens quite often is you go to get a quote and they won't accept you or take you in a particular company. Not every company does that. Select handful do that in Oklahoma, but yeah, it's something to consider for sure.
Wow, I also didn't know that you could be rejected for insurance. So I'm learning lots of things. And how long have we known each other?
Yeah, right. Well, I guess we don't really talk about, hey, how are you doing? Let me tell you about getting rejected by insurance. And it doesn't happen often, but the rejections usually go with a handful of things you look like, in medical terms, like comorbid, like things that are clustered. So you might not have had insurance the last 6 months on auto insurance. You also might have had a serious accident 2 years ago and a ticket, and all those together, the insurance company says, this isn't the type of a risk we want to have right now.
They're still going to look at all those risk factors. Absolutely. And that's where the CLUE report comes into play because it kind of tells you everything.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So as far as like red flags go, like what should a divorcee kind of be looking out for as far as insurance when they're thinking about getting their own policy or splitting or, all of those kind of things?
Yeah. I mean, as mentioned, always make sure you're listed currently, as long as you have insurable interest, which means you own something. If you are looking at splitting insurance or separating, to make that happen, most insurance companies are going to have both parties or both insureds sign off on it. So, it makes sense. You could have one person cancel a policy or take somebody off without the other one knowing. And so most insurance carriers have, the rules and regulations that they want signature or verbal from both people acknowledging that or agreeing to it. But so that, there's some of the processes there to be aware of. I don't know if you want to get in the nitty gritty of specific policies because I think that's one of the things I enjoy doing a lot of the consultation approach of insurance is there's so many different variations of coverage. You can take one insurance company or carrier and have 3 or 4 different policies within that company that they offer. And that means higher or lower coverage, different deductible options, no coverages at all for different things. And so it's always good to have an insurance agent that helps take time to break that down or at least show you options or discuss those, because I think people can get in a hurry sometimes, especially in this situation when you're just, I need insurance on my own, or maybe, it's go time. It's time for me to do that. And you just want to get something or secure that. But you might not understand what you're getting or what you're not getting is the big thing. So lots of things to do, but, make sure you have an agent that will discuss that with you, go over, answer your questions. And it's funny I say answer questions, but a lot of times people don't know what questions to ask, right? So, but if you can just look at, full replacement versus actual cash value is big on both vehicles and home insurance. And then deductibles are always key. Having lower deductibles increases the rate. Having higher deductibles lowers the rate. But sometimes people don't realize if, like on home insurance, if they have a super high deductible, that they might be actually paying for their roof when it's time to replace it because it's so high.
Yeah.
So,
and the roof is kind of a big deal here in Oklahoma.
It is, absolutely.
So just to kind of clarify, in the process of like going through a divorce, say that they're on the policy together, when would be a good time for them to think about going ahead and splitting? Do they wait till the divorce is final, or do they go ahead and do that proactively, like while they're in the process?
Yeah, I mean, as long, again, the insurable interest, I'm going to use that silly insurance term, but as long as they have that, you really could get a quote at any time and check out to see where you are, what you need to be looking at. There are usually stipulations, like divorce decrees. The judge or whoever might put information out there. Agreed attorneys might put information specifically on the divorce decree on and set the timeline or restrictions on insurance. And so most of the thing I see is, they put it for the current term of insurance. So let's say that's 6 months or 12. Even after the divorce, the spouses must stay together on the same policy until after that, and then they're okay to do that. And then it spells out typically who's going to be continuing paying that policy, if it's one person or both, or how they do that. And so, you have to kind of look for that. So I don't think it hurts at all to do a quote or take a look at where you might be. But you also have to kind of look within the ramifications of your particular situation and specifically on the divorce decree.
Right. What else should people know about insurance and divorce?
A lot of the times I see, you're splitting things. You're either splitting a home or splitting the vehicles. That sometimes there's situations where it takes a while for that to happen, or it takes a while for that to be agreed upon. And so I would say, just as a professional on this side of it, like a human side, just kind of be patient with it. I know a lot of people want to break even and get out and stuff, but I know there's a lot of rules and regulations and things that happen. And so, take a look at it yourself, do your own research and things, but also be kind of patient in the process, because you can get a quote quickly, but doing it correctly and having the right information is key, because kind of what we talked about a while back is, you don't want to be having insurance on something that you don't own, or having something change in the future. So you want to make sure you're doing it correctly.
Yeah. And when somebody comes to you to get that quote, what is it that they need to bring to you?
Typically, we ask for a divorce decree if they mention divorce in the process. I guess I should back up and say too, on some of the processes, if you're looking at getting insurance before, during, or after a divorce, a lot of insurance companies actually have within their policies divorce splits is what they call it typically. So they already have that set up where you could actually split the policy. So that's one thing to look at, or one option to look at. I always suggest looking at every option you have, and looking at, different policies or different companies by yourself, because things change. And so, the situation with you and a spouse might have been different, much different than you by yourself, or your spouse by yourself. So, but that's one thing to look at to kind of make it easy. And then, like I said, just look at other options that you might have exploring by yourself. Can kind of help out too.
And I always kind of mention to my clients, like, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. If you're going to different companies, making sure that quote from one company looks exactly like the quote from the second company. And it's the same coverage for the same, everything, because you won't really get a good idea if you're trying to compare quotes if it isn't an apple to apple kind of situation.
Correct. Yeah. And that's why, again, having a insurance professional that you trust is important because even matching apples to apples, there could be coverages that are missing, right? So like we see all the time, like something as simple as medical payments that is listed both on home insurance and auto insurance. I find for some reason a lot of insurance professionals or people who write their own policy online just don't add it because they think it's an extra thing. But insurance medical payment is the biggest bang for the buck on both home and auto, but it's super beneficial because it usually pays per person per accident. And so something that simple, if you look at one policy, it's not going to be listed because in insurance, typically it doesn't say not covered. Most of the time it doesn't list it. So if you're comparing, sometimes you don't know what you're looking at or don't know. Sometimes you just don't know what you're missing. And so having an insurance professional that you trust to take a look at that, make suggestions and things is really, really helpful. But here, I know a lot of times I talk about coverage and things and people just automatically think that's more money, but literally I think a lot of times like something like medical payments I've seen as small as like $9 per year increase to have that on there versus not. And so for most people that's worth it.
Absolutely. Medical bills is the number one cause for bankruptcy. So yes, any kind of coverage that you can get on anything medical is going to help you out. Even if you have health insurance, it's still one of the biggest causes of bankruptcy. So,
and to stay on my soapbox about medical payment is it also can be utilized for people in your vehicle too. And so, you have to think of if you're transporting family and friends, you're helping them out by having that types of coverage too for very minimal cost. We're not talking hundreds of dollars or anything. So, something I advise people all day to do.
That's just like couch change, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, especially in the world of medical expenses, if you think of, even put $20 a year on that. I mean, where can you get that much coverage of $5,000 per person for $20 a year? It means a lot and can add up quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, so I own Varde Insurance Group, and you can find me online at vardeinsurance.com. You can contact me directly at 405-596-2369. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at Grant, Grant, at vardeinsurance.com.
Awesome. Can you spell Varde for us?
Yeah, it's V as in Victor, ARDE.
Thank you. I never get it right. I always have to go look. And also, I'd like to mention that Grant and I and our good friend Erica will be doing a divorce real estate workshop in January on the 28th from 10 to 11:30, 5909 Northwest Expressway in Warriors. And so we're going to be talking about divorce real estate. Obviously Grant will be there talking about it specifically in relating to your real estate that you have insurance on. And then Erica will be talking about the lending prospect, the aspect of lending in real estate. And then I will be there as a licensed realtor talking about all that good stuff. So I hope you guys can make it to that. For more information, you can always find us at thedivorcelife.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, radiate love, guys. For more information on services or divorce resources provided by The Divorce Life, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram or find us at www.thedivorcelife.com. Thank you for tuning in and listening, and a big thanks to my producer, Jazz, at the Possibilities Podcast Center.